Hi guys, Melanie here at Vision City Design Studio. I want to thank you for listening or watching today. And in this episode, I want to talk to you all about how to sell original artwork online. Now, for those of you who have never met me or you don't know who I am, again, my name is Melanie and I'm the founder of Vision City. And I've been running my own design service business for over 10 years now. About 5 years into that process, I also introduced art products, which I sell on Etsy. I personally sell black and white illustrations that I have printed on beautiful papers that I've been selling to customers all over the world. Now, one of the things that have happened in the process is I've also had the opportunity to get licensing deals and wholesale deals. So as of now, I've had the opportunity to sell in Wayfair.com, Walmart.com, Ross. I've sold in Land of Nod in their stores across North America. And I've also had wonderful opportunities to be featured in a variety of live events like trade shows and craft fairs. And I find that I've learned a lot of different things in a whole bunch of different ways. And so that's really why nowadays what I do is I also teach artists who also want to sell their art online. And I teach them through things like this, through this video or audio podcast. I also teach through a webinar, and I have a whole bunch of awesome courses as well. But in this specific video, I want to talk to you specifically about how to sell your original artwork to customers all around the world. Now, when I say original artwork, what I'm talking about are things that are really one of a kind. So maybe you are a painter, or maybe you do hand lettering on wood, or maybe you paint, watercolors on canvas. Whatever it might be, if it's an original piece that you want to sell, a lot of times people are nervous. How do I do that online? Maybe you're familiar with people selling their prints or their greeting cards or other things that they might make, but you might think, but can people do that online if it's actually an original piece of art? And I just want to say to you, yes, you absolutely can. And that's why I wanted to make sure to really focus on this today, because a lot of people ask me this question over my webinar or on my Facebook group, which is called the Etsy Artist Dream Team, by the way, if you want to check that out. So you can actually join my webinar at visioncity.biz/Sell Your Art webinar. So the first things first, one of the number one things you need to do when selling original artwork is to properly photograph it. Now, I know this seems like an obvious thing, but this might be the one thing that's causing people to stumble or to shy away. A lot of people might say, yeah, but I don't know how to take photos properly of art. And I'm hoping that I can share a few tips with you right now. So first things first, whenever you're photographing any artwork, you want to make sure you're using natural daylight. Okay, now if you're watching this video, I'm literally in a room right now in my office where I have natural daylight. I have daylight coming in through windows. However, above me, there's obviously a roof, right? And so that's the kind of lighting you want to use when you're photographing your own original artwork. I would suggest doing it indoors. However, you could also do this in an opened doored garage or another area. However, you could also deal with like wind and things like that. So that could actually become a bit tricky. But if you're just photographing inside of a room like this one, I've got different windows opened, but my lighting over me is even. And so for my purposes right now, giving this video or audio, for those of you who are listening over the podcast, there's really even light, okay? I don't have any lights on me. I don't have any flashes going off. It's just even lighting. That's the kind of light you're gonna really aim for, okay? So that's number one when it comes to photography. Number two, a lot of people say, well, I don't have a professional camera. Well, I want to let you know that nowadays, the smartphones that we are using, a lot of times they're good enough quality. You basically want to make sure that the photos that you're taking are going to be able to be viewed clearly if somebody zooms in. So say somebody's looking at your artwork on their phone. You want them to be able to zoom in to your artwork to see the quality and the details. So as long as you're able to offer that, and depending on where you're selling online, the dimensions might change. So you're going to want to find out, and that brings me to my second point, which I won't go there yet, but depending on where you're selling online, they may have different dimensions requirements for the actual photographs that you're submitting of your pieces. So you're going to want to know what those are so that you can make sure you can produce that with whatever camera you're using. Now, for those of you who are comfortable with a digital SLR or nice, professional camera, then hey, go for it. Absolutely use that. You're going to want to photograph your artwork straight on, basically as though you and your camera lens are central and your artwork is straight on. The artwork is not tilted up or down. It is as 90 degrees as humanly possible. And you're going to want to just align your camera's viewfinder in a way so that everything's squared on. I know this is a bit challenging, but that's the way I would suggest to do it. If it's got a slight tilt to it, I don't think it's going to be a huge deal, but that's just something to be aware of. If you're selling a canvas piece, then obviously you're going to be just using the canvas. Maybe you can lean it against a wall. You can hang it on a wall on a nail if you want. I would just really suggest keeping the surrounding areas fairly simplified. Maybe having it on a mantle. Maybe you could have like a little candle or something beside it for props. I do that sometimes. But I would keep the actual photograph fairly simple and clean so that people can really focus on your artwork. And if you are selling, say, something that can be framed, then I would suggest that you frame it. Always remove glass from frames when you're photographing things. I know it sounds like, oh yeah, I never even thought about that, right? It's one of those things you don't really think about it until you're actually doing it. But glass is going to create all kinds of glares that are going to distract people from your beautiful artwork. So you're going to want to just take the glass out, pop your art into the frame, and then you're ready to go. So I hope that gives you guys some ideas when it comes to photographing your art in original form. Obviously be very careful with it, and this is the one piece that you're selling of this thing, so you're going to want to make sure that it's ready to go. Okay, so let's go on to the next thing here. The next thing on my list when it comes to selling original art would be choosing your online selling platform. Now, there are so many different selling platforms nowadays. You know, I began selling on Etsy. I also have expanded to selling on Shopify, which I love. You could sell on Amazon, on eBay, on all kinds of different platforms. You can also sell on your own personal website. And there's pros and cons to all of those. One of the pros to selling on a platform that's already established is that a lot of times they may have a built-in audience. For example, on Etsy, they have a whole bunch of people, millions of people that are already there shopping. And so as you are adding to that community, then you're going to be kind of organically discovered. Yes, you do need to still really work hard to get awareness of your actual art through the Etsy system, which I talk about in my courses and all kinds of different webinars and things. However, it's also something to think about though. Do you want to be in a place where there's already a community of buyers, or do you want to really more establish your own online selling platform on your website, which is totally cool as well. It just means you're going to have to do a little bit more work when it comes to marketing so that you're not off alone on the internet in a little corner of the internet alone. Okay, you don't want to have this beautiful website that nobody's coming to. So it just means you have to work that much harder to get people to come to your website in order to go ahead and see the products that you're offering to buy them. Now, you can do a lot of that through online marketing, through social media. Is obviously a great way to bring awareness to everything that you're offering. Pinterest is awesome. So those are different ways you can do that. But I talk a lot about that in my other courses and webinars, so I won't go too much into that at this point. Now, the third thing you're going to want to think about is your descriptions. As you're writing descriptions for an original art piece, you're going to want to really highlight the fact that this is an original. It's a one of a kind. There's never going to be another one of these. You're also going to want to highlight the materials you've used, the different types of materials, maybe different paint materials or papers or canvases. Maybe you hand stretched it yourself. You're going to want to really highlight how much value is in this one piece. Okay, so your description is going to be very, very important when it comes to selling an original piece of art. Obviously, the number one thing you're highlighting is the fact that this is an original art piece. And so that will just drive the value up through the roof because there's never going to be another one of these originals. And so that is something that's very important. Obviously, in your description, you also want to bring in a lot of other things that are important, like keywords, things that are finding words that are associated with what you're selling. So things that people are already going to be typing in, you're going to want to add all those words in your descriptions, but that goes more into SEO topics. So I will leave that as is for now. The next thing you're going to want to think about is price. Okay, so as I just mentioned, there is so much value in an original art piece. Okay, you're going to want to be unashamed and unabashed about actually selling this art piece at a high price. Now, when you're creating an original art piece, you are aware of how much time and energy and creativity goes into that one piece. If you're selling that one piece and it's no longer going to be in your possession, you have to be willing to price that higher, obviously, than you would if you're selling prints. So I would suggest research, research, research. Find out what other people are doing and selling their art pieces for, maybe the same sizing, the same materials, the same genres, maybe the same themes, to the same customer type. So maybe you are wanting to do art pieces that are music themed, for example, and maybe there's a certain crowd of people that are really into that style. And if that's the case, you're going to want to really research what are those customers willing to spend, what are they already spending, so that you're not going to price way too high or way too low. Obviously, you're going to really also price based on quality. So the quality of the actual art piece, the materials, papers, the paints, all the different things you're using, so that you're selling a high quality piece, you're going to want to sell for a higher price. Again, when you're pricing an original, you have to always have in mind, yes, you want it to sell, so you don't want it to be like outrageously priced, but also number two, you want it to be sold well and to sell it once so that you're not, when it's gone, is my point, okay? Another option when it comes to selling your original artwork is also to sell prints. Now, I know people have mixed feelings about this, and I've had people ask me about this over webinars, and I've offered this suggestion, and it really helped them. So I wanted to be sure to mention this idea. Maybe you're selling original watercolor paintings, and you sell those for, a couple $100s each. But maybe people that love your style, they don't have that price. They don't have that much money to spend on one piece to hang in their home. Maybe they only have, $30 or $40. So what you can also do is you can also create prints as well. So maybe you make a limited edition or supply of prints from each of your original pieces. So maybe, again, let's say we do watercolors on beautiful watercolor paper, and those sell for a few $100s each. And I want to also sell prints. What I would do is I would digitize that original piece. Now, for those of you who want to know how to digitize original artwork, I have a whole video all about that, so I won't go all into that again. Or I also have a podcast if you're listening to this on podcast. But you can listen to that. It's on the Art Business Podcast, or it's here on my YouTube channel. But it's all about how to digitize original art. I suggest that you watch that, because if you digitize your original art, you bring it into your computer, then you can crop it, maybe edit it if need be, and get it sized for prints. And that way, maybe you are doing art fairs and craft markets, for example, in person, and you might have some of your originals there, but maybe the people at that fair, that maybe the budget's maybe a bit lower, and they may not have, $300, for example, to spend on one piece. Maybe they only have $30 to $40, okay? So you can offer people different price points so that you're really serving more than just one group or dynamic of customer. So this is something that I find is really helpful. And I don't do personally original artwork per se. Obviously, everything I do is my own. However, I sell prints. But if I did do, paintings and originals, I would definitely also offer a print of that. Maybe you can also do, say, numbered and signed versions of the prints, and that might even increase the value even more. So say you have a very limited supply, maybe only 20 or 15 of each, a painting, for example. And then that way you can sign them and number them, and they could still have a lot of value to the customer, especially if you already have, say, a following on Instagram or Pinterest, and you're developing a really good following of people, then this could be a really good suggestion for you guys. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode on how to sell original artwork online. I hope it's really served you guys. And for those of you who have not ever watched my webinar, I want to encourage you to check it out, visioncity.biz/Sell Your Art webinar. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you next time.